Huh, somebody left me a note. This better be good news with the year we're having. I know what you did last summer. Yeah, I know what I did too. Absolutely nothing. Let's get into the review. Hey, welcome back to my channel. And if you gather from my intro, we are going to talk about I Know What You Did Last Summer today. I'm going to do I Know What You Did Last Summer and a direct sequel. I still know what you did last summer, back to back. I am starting off my Halloween horror movie season. Although I watch horror movies all year long, I've been taking a break the last month and a half, watching mostly action films. So now I'm getting into my Halloween horror season. It's early, I know, but I start early because I love Halloween and I just can't wait. Anyway, yes, I Know What You Did Last Summer was actually a reaction to Scream. With the huge success that was Scream in '96, Columbia immediately bought this script from Kevin Williamson. Kevin Williamson actually wrote this script before he wrote Scream. So as soon as that was a success, people were just lining up to buy anything that he wrote. Columbia bought this, and they went into production immediately, because by the time they bought it and they went into production, it was out that fall. This movie came out on October 17th of 1997. I remember seeing this in the movie theaters that year. It's rated R. It's an hour and 41 minutes long. It had a nice budget of $17 million. Upon release in the US, it made 72, and worldwide it made 125. So this was a nice size hit, especially for a slasher film. I mean, until Scream made over $100 million being a slasher film, that was unheard of for slasher films. Yeah, slasher films were always profitable, but not that profitable. So this kind of, Scream kicked off the new wave, and this was the immediate reaction to it. Although the next year we also, in '97, we also got Scream 2, and then right after we got Urban Legend. We got I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, Urban Legends 2, Scream 3, and on, which I love slasher films, so I was cool with that in the '90s. They brought in Jim Gillespie to direct this film. Jim Gillespie, up to that point, had only done short films and some TV work. That's it. This was his first major theatrical film. After this, he went on to do a film called I See You with Sylvester Stallone, and a pretty good cast, although that movie is kind of a dumpster fire. Not the directing. The directing's pretty good. It's more on the script level. It's a mess of a film. But I've seen it. It's all right. You could sit down and have a good time with it because Stallone alone, but it is a mess of a movie. And then he did a little horror movie called Venom for Dimensions, which they buried. It's an okay horror film. If you ever get a chance, check it out. It's nothing special, but it's not bad. Anyway, in this film, which was in the '90s, it was popular to do this. A bunch of TV actors that were hot at the time. Jennifer Love Hewitt is Julie James. Everybody knows she was on Party of Five for a while. She did these two movies. She did I Can't Hardly Wait. We had Sarah Michelle Gellar as Helen in this film as well. And all these actors do really good work. I know it's cool to make fun of that kind of stuff back then because of all the actors that came from TV, but they all do good stuff here. Ryan Phillippe plays Barry. We got Freddie Prinze Jr. as Ray, and they are our four main leads in this film, although Jennifer Love Hewitt is the main lead. And as the movie starts off, we have this aerial shot along the coastline. Now, this movie supposedly takes place in North Carolina. They did shoot in North Carolina, but they also shot in California. And this shot along the coastline, the aerial shot, was shot off Route 1 in California. And I love this shot because it's beautiful and it's kind of creepy, and it's set to the cover of Summer Breeze by Typo Negative, and I love that song, and it just sets the mood for the whole film. And we see this guy drinking. He's sitting on the rocks overlooking the ocean. And we linger on him for a little bit, and then it cuts to fireworks. And the town this movie takes place in is having their 4th of July celebration. There's a parade, there's fireworks, and there's a pageant going on. Sarah Michelle Gellar's character wins the pageant, and she is the Kroger Queen, I think that's what they call it in the film. And our four leads, who are friends, go to the beach to drink and hang out. And they tell a story like this urban legend about this guy that has a hook for a hand, and they tell little ghost stories around the campfire. And then they're getting ready to leave, and Barry is shit-faced, and it's his car, so they let Ray drive. And they're driving along the coastal road, which is very twists and turns, so you can't really see what's coming up ahead of you if you're driving fast. Barry spills his drink of booze, and Ray looks down, and when he looks up, it's too late. There's a guy in the middle of the road, and they nail him with the car. Now, all these kids were just talking about how they have a future. Helen wants to go to New York and be an actress. Barry wants to play professional football. Ray's going to go off to college, so is Julie. And they all decide, Julie's very hesitant of it, but the other three are pretty quick to go along with it, that they're going to dump the body in the ocean and never speak about this again, which they end up doing. We fast forward a year, and we meet Julie a year in the future, a year ahead after what happened. And she looks all pale, although Jennifer Love Hewitt's a very beautiful woman. Even when they're trying to dress her down, she still looks, she's very attractive. But they try. and she's pretty much turned into an introvert. She doesn't go out much, and her grades are failing. Her grades are not doing that well. And she goes back to town for the summer, and her mom have a conversation about her grades slipping, and she said she's going to do better. And then we find out that Helen came back to town too, that New York did not work out, and now she's working for her sister at this small department store they own downtown. And Barry's back in town for the summer. He's having problems, and Ray never went to college. He ended up staying and becoming a fisherman like his father. And not too long after Julie gets back, there's a note left for her, just like in my intro. It says, "I know what you did last summer." She starts freaking out that somebody knows about what they've done last year, and she goes to Helen, and then they go to Barry, and Barry's like, don't worry about it. I think it's Johnny Galecki's in this movie too, from The Big Bang Theory, and he plays one of their, he's more Julie's friend than anybody else's. He doesn't get along with the rest of them. They all pick on him a little bit, and he doesn't like that they think they're better than he is. And he goes and confronts him because he thinks he's the one that's doing it. And that night, Johnny Galecki's character gets killed with a hook up through his mouth, and a pretty cool scene, and probably one of the goriest ones of the film. And then they all start getting messed with. Helen goes to bed. Well, Barry gets run over by his own car and gets hurt, breaks his arm. And then Helen goes to bed at night, and she really loves her hair, and he butches her hair, and she freaks out. And then Julie gets that note, like I said, and then Ray gets a note. So they start investigating who could possibly this be, or who they might have hit the year before. And they find this kid who got found in the ocean, and the police called it a drowning, and they think that's the one they hit. But there's a couple twists in this film. There's a couple red herrings. They try to make you believe it's one person. It's not. And at the end, we get our twist of who it really is. And by the time the end of the movie rolls around, Ray and Julie are the only two left alive, and they dispatch of the killer, and we have a happy ending, or so we think. Obviously, we got a sequel to next year, so it wasn't that happy of an ending. But there's in the middle of going into the third act, when things really kick into high gear, there's an awesome chase sequence, which is the best sequence of the whole film. I like this film, but this is definitely the best part of the whole movie. Helen is at the next pageant the next year because she's the queen from the previous year. She's there to hand off her crown to the next winner. And Barry's protecting her. He's up in the balcony watching the whole thing. And she's on the stage watching what's going on, and the killer sneaks up on Barry and kills him. And she's the only one that sees it. Nobody believes her. And the police officer decides to drive her home because she's visibly upset. So the police officer takes her home. They're on their way home, and they cut down the alley because the main street's closed from the parade and all that. And this guy, you can't see his face because, actually, the killer in the movie is dressed like a fisherman, and you can never see his face until the end of the film. And like I said with Johnny Galecki's character, his weapon of choice is the hook, a fishing hook, like a big hook. And this guy is pulled over, and he looks like he's having car trouble. So the policeman gets out to help this guy, and here it's the killer. He kills the cop. Helen breaks out of the back seat of the cop car and starts running towards her family's department store where her sister still is. And she gets in, and the killer follows her in, kills the sister, and there's some nice suspenseful moments in the store. And then the chase goes out into this alley, and Helen's almost to the main street where the parade's still going on. She's maybe 5 feet from civilization where there's actually people and she could be safe. And the killer gets her right at the last second and kills her before she can get out into public. And it's a really well done scene. The chase goes on for 8-9 minutes, and it's really well done, well shot. It's very suspenseful, and that is definitely the best sequence of the whole movie. Although I do like this film. I do like the resolution of the film too. It takes place on a fishing boat out in the ocean once we find out who our killer is, which I won't spoil now if you've never seen this film. I thought about it, but I'm not going to spoil it. It's a surprise who it is, and it changes what we thought earlier in the film about what actually took place. Is not actually what happened. It's nothing like heady or anything, but it's a nice little twist. So what would I give I Know What You Did Last Summer? I would give it an 8.5 out of 10. It's a really well done 90s slasher film. It's not as good as Scream. Scream is definitely the better film, and you can't help but compare the two because Kevin Williamson wrote both films. But it's a damn good slasher film. It's a fun time. The cast is game. There's a few cheesy moments and some things that don't make sense. Like there's a scene where Julie's going over to Helen's house, and she starts hearing things in her trunk. So she pulls over right in front of these houses. Like there's houses on both sides of the street. She opens her trunk, and the trunk's filled with ice, Johnny Galecki's body, and a bunch of crabs. She slams the trunk shut and takes off for Helen's house. When they come back with Barry, they open the trunk and it's completely clean and everything's gone. Now, there's no way in hell, this is a gap in logic, there's no way in hell that killer could have showed up, cleaned out the trunk without nobody seeing him, considering there's houses on both sides of the street. And then there's that famous part right after this part where Julie makes this speech about he's watching us and he's fucking with us. And she starts screaming, "What are you waiting for?" And she's spinning around in the street. It just comes off as cheesy as hell. But the actors still do good work. There's a few moments of stupidity. But overall, everybody does good here. It's an enjoyable slasher film. 8.5 out of 10 for I Know What You Did Last Summer. Have you ever seen I Know What You Did Last Summer? What are your thoughts on this? Leave your comment down below. Let me know. Hit the thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button. Share this video. I greatly appreciate it. Join me here over the next 3 months as I go from horror movie to horror movie. I'm going to do I Still Know What You Did Last Summer next. I think after that I'm going to end the week with Bad Ronald, which is a TV movie from the 70s. And that'll cap off my week this week, and we'll get on to some other ones next week. Thanks for watching. I hope you're all doing well out there, and I'll be back soon. Thanks. Bye.